We're here today with Dr. Silvana Ferreira. She is an assistant pastor for congregational care. And Dr. Ferreira, where did you grow up? Silvana Ferreira. She is an assistant pastor for congregational care. And Dr. Ferreira, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Brazil, in São Paulo, and I lived there for 36 years until I live and work in England, and then we can go over later. But I grew up there. My parents lived there. I was born in Brazil.
And you were always Christian?
No, I became a Christian when I was 15 years old.
Oh, how did that happen?
I grew up in a Roman Catholic church, nominals, in Brazil. It's very different than here. And one afternoon, Sunday afternoon, I had a friend. She asked me to go with her to a church because she had a friend that she needed to pick up a book from this friend. And I went there, and there was a group of young people, probably maybe 20, 25. They were practicing for the service in the evening, because in Brazil the services are in the evening. And I could not believe to have so many young people in the church, because church for me, I grew up, it was bored. I was so bored to go to boring the services or the masses and all this, and just we didn't have young people in the church. And I was so curious to see what they were doing there Sunday afternoon, and then they invited me to come to the service in the evening. I went there. And the next week was a carnival in Brazil, and at church they have like conference for young people, and I went to this camp for the weekend, and it was the first time that I heard about God's love and the plan of salvation for me. And at the end of the service, the pastor asked if someone would like to give their life to Christ. And I was afraid. I didn't do there, right there. I did do in my heart, but then they said, everybody that did that, we are going to another room, and please follow us. And I went, and that's how it started. I gave my life to Jesus, and since that time, I was 15 years old.
You were 15 years old?
Yes.
When did you know the Lord was calling you into public ministry?
Actually, it was about a year later. I was finishing high school, and until there, my dream was always, I liked exercise, and my dream was to be a PE teacher, and I played basketball, and I want to be a basketball player, a professional one. But when I became a Christian, something changed, and when I was 16 years old, I was feeling that God was calling me. I didn't understand the total thing, and I went to my pastor and explained what I was feeling. And the next year, in Brazil, it's a European way, the school, when you finish high school, you go to college. And it's graduate, not undergraduate, like here. And then the next year I was finishing the last year, and I told my pastor, and he said, I think God is calling you, but you still have 1 year ahead of you, and you need a permission from your parents. You were 16 or 17 years old. And I went to my parents and explained to go to seminary. And they said, no way. And for 1 year I prayed, and I prayed together with my pastor. And he said, I remember he's saying, if God is calling you, he's going to put there in the seminary. And at the end, the last week, when they were about to close the registration, I asked my parents, and they said, yeah, you do what you think that's. And I went to seminary. My family still, not many of them are Christians, and but they they were okay that I would go. But for the time that I gave my life to Jesus until the time that I went to the seminary, they were completely against that I was in a Protestant church or a Presbyterian church.
So you went to seminary and then you graduated. And what was ministry like in Brazil? What were your big challenges there?
Okay. As soon as I loved mission, and as soon as I graduated, I felt God calling me to go to northeast of Brazil. It's a very poor. It's a beautiful area, but it's a very poor area, and I moved to that area for 1 year and worked there with Islams and with a drug addict house. Went back to my own church, worked there. The churches in Brazil, they're growing pretty fast, and especially at that time. And I worked with a new church at that time. In Brazil, when you go to a seminary, many seminaries, they require that you start a new church in order to graduate.
You had to start a church before you could graduate.
Yeah, I started a new church with my church, what they call congregation, in order to graduate. And then when I graduated, I had a lot of experience that, normally it's just when you are working with the church that you have. But the churches are very strong in Brazil. They are very open, not just to open new congregations, but also to send missionaries abroad.
Well, what brought you to the United States?
I worked as a professor in the seminary. I was teaching mission. My master's degree is in missiology, and I was preparing missionaries to send abroad. But I didn't have the experience of being abroad and being the missionary. It was completely different. And I went to England, I went to Wales for 1 year to learn English. They say that's not the best place in Wales to learn English, but 4 years then I worked with a local mission, a Birmingham mission, local mission that worked with evangelism. And then for me was what really changed, because I learned the challenges, what's to be a missionary, and how the church in our places our countries can support the missionaries. Went back to Brazil, went back to teach for 1 year, and then the Presbyterian Church of the United States were looking for pastors that could start new churches here among Portuguese-speaking immigrants. They want someone that would understand both cultures, or at least one of the cultures that was in Brazilian culture, and could speak English. And that's when I came to Tampa Bay. I stayed there for 4 years, and then I moved to Naples to work with this presbytery here.
What are the differences between starting a church in Brazil or in Wales and the United States?
Oh, completely different. In Brazil, it's natural. The church growth is natural. You invite people to come to church. They are happy to come, and they have a connection, and it's not too difficult. England is completely different than the United States. England, at that time when I went there, churches were closing down, and there is no much about. It was hard to share about the gospel. People, they didn't want to hear about God. There were communities, open communities that were doing a good job, but the traditional church, they were closing their doors. In United States, when we work here with immigrants, they come here for a better life, and they work like crazy. They don't have time for anything else. And there is something that changes in the culture, what I call the third culture, that some of the values change when you come to another culture. Some people, they will mix the culture, the values from your own culture to the new one, and they will have their own values. And some of them, they will completely get messed up. And they don't have time for God. When I started working here in Naples, I had to go looking for. You're not going to find Brazilians in church. They don't have the Protestant background, and they don't go to church. When they were living in their country, in our country, they sometimes they would go because the families would come with them. But now they don't have the families here to check on them. And they work 7 days a week. When they get home, they don't want to go anywhere, or they go to different places. When I started here, I had to go to the beach, and I had to go to the supermarkets and trying to find people that could speak Portuguese. I would just walk to the beach, and the beach one another. When I hear about Portuguese, I would stop, and I would introduce myself not as a pastor or missionary, but as a Brazilian. And I will start to build a friendship. Then it's much more complicated than, because it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of time until you have someone ready to hear the good news. Mm-hmm. It's a preparation time, you know. It's three different places that you have to have a different strategy. The same message about God's love, but different strategy.
Tell me about one of your successes in the United States. Someone that was open to hearing the gospel and that became involved in church.
When I started, I didn't have anybody in the church, and I had to start from zero, you know. And most of them, they came from the Roman Catholic Church, and but I remember one guy. He came to the Lord. He heard about the news, but it was through a building friendship. He gave his life to Christ, and he started to get involved. He was one of our musicians. He loved music. He played guitar, and he got involved. And after some time, he had cancer, and he almost died. And this time was so important for him to come to the Lord and to be able to have the support of the church or the other Brazilians or the people that are there, and he became one of our leaders. He was healed. He got the treatment. He's free, cancer free, and he was one of our leaders. The people that were he was able to bring others to Christ, and to see a transformation in his life from the beginning to that time is wonderful to see people really being transformed by God.
What would you say was your biggest challenge for ministry in the United States?
I think with the direct to this immigrant church, it's this change of values, or too much work, or that culture. Here in the United States, you have the culture that you work, and you have to get money, and you have to be rich. And they come, and when they see it, they start to have a life like that. And it's a challenge, because you have to work not just in terms of their lives with God, but also emotions. You know, people, they get depressed because they work, and there's no time for family. There's many problems with family problems that they're going to find. Kids that are going maybe get involved with drugs, and with this, with the American culture is the idea that because we have a broken English, we are less. There is nothing to learn with us, and this is one of the things that churches and missionaries they have to face, and they have to work through this, to have the opportunity. There will be people that don't think like that, thank God for that, but there will be people that will think that there is
Nothing for them to contribute.
Nothing
That
to
they
be
are
to
so
learn.
low down
Yeah.
on the scale that they
And the
don't
mission is about, it's two ways. We learn with each other. We partner with each other, and it's unfortunate. It's sad, but it happens. And I think that
What's the biggest help that you've found in the United States in doing mission with immigrants? What's the biggest help then?
with people that have had a good vision, because it's not everybody that don't have. I had what I call my angels. They send some angels to help us. I remember one of the pastors at the Presbyterian church that was a blessing for me and helped me to navigate in this situation, how to get help, how to get the support help to start a church, how to get the hosting church, how to get all the support that you need, how to do the best, even like when I moved here in Naples, I didn't even know if it would be better to buy something or to rent something for me. People that will help you to navigate in those things, those situations. And those angels that God sent to us, they are a blessing because they open doors, and it helps a lot. And I had that in Columbia Seminary as well, where I had my doctorate degree. I had some professors that were a blessing to my life.
After having been here for how many years have you been here?
19.
19 years you've been here. What would you have done differently from when you first came? What have you learned about mission work here?
Okay, I think probably I would invest more in the language, on learning English for more time before I come. In Brazil, it's just some countries they have English as a second language, or they learn since they are very young. In Brazil, French was our second language when I was in the middle school. Then they changed in high school, they changed for English. But what we learned is just colors and choose to count to 1 to 10, and that's it. Or to say, we have always say the book is on the table. We don't know even what it means, but the book is on the table. It's all we learn, and it's a challenge to learn another language. People, they have no idea. And I feel sorry sometimes and sad when people they make fun or they say, oh, this has a broken English, and because they have no idea the challenge. The challenge is that learning English when you are an adult. My kids, they grew up when I went to England, they were 3 and 7. They have a perfect English. They don't have accent. Because when you are a child, it's much easier. There are some thinking that area that's not formed yet in your tongue. But when you are an adult, and I never want to leave Brazil. I never want to learn English. I was happy there as a pastor until I found that God was feeling that God was calling. Then is a challenge. Probably I would spend more time, because working and learning another language was hard. I think that's one of the things that I would probably spend more time.
To be able to communicate more. What's your vision for the future of the mission here, your mission here? What would you like to see 10 years from now? What would that look like?
Now I'm working with an Anglo church, and I supervise the mission board, and I work with the mission. And my vision for the church, not here, but the Anglo church, is that
Okay, so what's your vision for the mission here in the next 10 years? What would you like to see happen?
I would like to see in the United States in general, okay, I would like to see church more involved in mission, and not just thinking that they are the ones that did that in the past, send missionaries and they are fine, but they could be open to learn with each other and to partner together. Like we have so many immigrant groups here that we could invest, churches could invest, but not just that, not just giving, but being a partner. Like we were talking before, there are some churches that they are happy to host groups, and they use that in the report, and they take the money that comes from them, but they're not happy to let them be in the session or the leaders. Mm-hmm. They are leaders of their group, not mm-hmm. ours. Mm-hmm. And I want to, my vision for this partnership is that we understand that we are one body. And God has put us together with a purpose. And mm-hmm. when we are together, we are stronger. Mm-hmm. We could have this interaction and the understanding that we are one family, and from there we can do so much more.
So I hear you saying that the general idea is for a church to host another ethnic group, or maybe help them start their own church. But that it would be better if somehow those two groups could find a way to partner together and work together as one church. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Even if we have services in different languages, because it's important, when you are, it's different than when you hear God loves you in your own language. Makes a huge difference. Mm-hmm. Plus that some people from different countries, or they are here, they would not come to a church. They would feel maybe not comfortable. They maybe would know how to speak English, or mm-hmm. They need their own group, their culture. They need to have their own food that mm-hmm. sometimes it smells different than after the service. Those things. Yeah. They do need this kind of thing. But when we talk about leading the church and giving the direction where we are going, mm-hmm. We can learn from each other. Mm. It's precious that we can have people from different backgrounds, from diversity is something that's really important. And sometimes mm-hmm. I don't see the diversity mm-hmm. In the Anglo church. And it makes me sad, because we could do much better if you could have diversity, if you could understand that we are part of the same family, God's family, and we can learn with each other.
Well, what haven't I asked you that would help us know how to do mission work better in the United States than what we're doing now?
I think first is to understand and to accept the fact that God has put us together. Immigrants are not here just because of the work. Maybe this is the strategies, what has been helping or what God is using. But I really, my understanding is that there is God's plans, and we need to be happy and accept that, and to accept the people that God is sending to us. And they are not less or more than us. They are partners, and partners are equal. even if they don't speak a perfect
Perfectly
English.
English.
Even if they're, I have heard some churches that had Korean church, they hosted Korean church, and some members were really upset because after the services, by the way, all those churches, most of the immigrant churches, they love to have dinner together, lunch together. It's part of it's where they are together.
In their own food.
Their own food. And I have heard some people, they were very upset trying to close the doors for Koreans because their food smells bad for them. Those things are and until we don't understand, we don't accept the fact that the people that God has been sending us, they're a gift to us. It's going to be hard to go to the second step.
What's your favorite mission passage from the Bible?
Oh, Acts 1:8. That God is sending to everywhere, just not in, where we are, but going everywhere around of the world, to the end of the world. I think that's my favorite one.
And your vision too.
Yes,
I can see.
And I think God's always we need to keep this vision. I see some church that they think, okay, we are doing a good job here, but we are not going to invest money in Cuba, in Haiti, in Africa or whatever. God never had just intention just for one place. If you see in the Bible, it just went to everywhere, all the nations. And it goes here and there, and we can do all together at the same time. It's just the strategy, we need to use the right strategy. At the same time that we need to see locally, we need to see far away as well. Always I say that sometimes the church has eyes problems like we have. For many years I could not see myopia. I think I could not see. I could not see far. I had to wear glasses, and now I had cataract surgery, and now I cannot see close. And as a church, we cannot have those kind of problems. That's why the Bible is our glasses, that will help us to. We can do here, but we can do there as well. It's God's way to. That's why Acts 1. It's 1:8. It's my favorite because this is the strategy. We do here, there, and there. Don't wait to do all here because we will never go the second one. We can reach out the world and
to the ends of the earth.
Exactly. If you cannot go there, you can send your money, you can pray, you can get involved, you can send letters to missionaries, you can send letters to missionary kids, you can support them. There are so many ways that we can do that.
Thank you, Silvana.